She gave last $10 for a stranger's fare. Later she learned he was the millionaire who saved her life. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's jump into the story. Meet Emily, a woman who's about to experience the most unexpected turn of fate. Emily was standing at the crowded train station, clutching her worn-out purse with only $10 left in it. The chill of the early morning air made her shiver, and the rain wasn't helping. Her phone buzzed in her hand. It was a reminder for the job interview she had been desperately hoping for. The pressure weighed on her. She couldn't afford to miss this opportunity. She was just a waitress, barely scraping by, struggling to make ends meet. But today was supposed to be different. Today could change everything. As Emily moved to the platform, her eyes scanned the crowd. She was late. Again. Then, a voice broke through her thoughts. "Excuse me, miss, can you spare me $10 for a ticket? I lost my wallet, and I just need to get home." Emily turned, startled by the man's voice. He was standing there, looking down at his shoes, drenched from the rain, with a nervous energy around him. She could see the desperation in his eyes, and without hesitation, Emily reached into her purse. She handed him the last of her cash, the only $10 she had. "Here, just make sure you get home safe," she said softly, her voice a mix of sympathy and caution. The man looked at the money, and for a moment, he seemed stunned. "Thank you so much," he said, his voice cracking slightly. "I'll pay you back, I promise." Emily gave him a small smile, brushing off the moment. "It's fine. Just get home safe," she replied before turning and hurrying towards her interview. She didn't have time to worry about a stranger's promise. Little did Emily know, that small act of kindness would change the course of her life in ways she never expected. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's jump into the story. Meet Emily, a woman who's about to experience the most unexpected turn of fate. Emily stood at the crowded train station, clutching her worn-out purse with only $10 left in it. The chilly morning air made her shiver, and the rain didn't help. Her phone buzzed in her hand. It was a reminder for the job interview she had been desperately hoping for. The pressure weighed on her. She couldn't afford to miss this opportunity. She was just a waitress, barely scraping by, struggling to make ends meet. But today was supposed to be different. Today could change everything. As Emily moved toward the platform, her eyes scanned the crowd. She was late. Again. Then, a voice broke through her thoughts. "Excuse me, miss, can you spare me $10 for a ticket? I lost my wallet, and I just need to get home." Emily turned, startled by the man's voice. He was standing there, looking down at his shoes, drenched from the rain, with a nervous energy around him. She could see the desperation in his eyes, and without hesitation, Emily reached into her purse. She handed him the last of her cash, the only $10 she had. "Here, just make sure you get home safe," she said softly, her voice a mix of sympathy and caution. The man looked at the money, and for a moment, he seemed stunned. "Thank you so much," he said, his voice cracking slightly. "I'll pay you back, I promise." Emily gave him a small smile, brushing off the moment. "It's fine. Just get home safe," she replied before turning and hurrying toward her interview. She didn't have time to worry about a stranger's promise. Little did Emily know, that small act of kindness would change the course of her life in ways she never expected. Several weeks passed, and Emily was still stuck in the same cycle of working long shifts as a waitress, barely scraping by. Her phone buzzed with another reminder of a job interview she had managed to secure, but she couldn't shake the sinking feeling that nothing would ever change. Every day felt like a battle against time and debt, and each day she wondered how much longer she could keep pretending everything was okay. One night, after another exhausting shift, Emily sat down at the small diner booth, rubbing her tired eyes. The weight of her life felt heavier with every passing day. As she sat there, sipping on her lukewarm coffee, her mind wandered back to the man at the train station. She had thought about him often over the past few weeks. Was he truly going to pay her back? Was he just another person in a sea of lost causes, or was there something different about him? Just as she was lost in thought, the bell above the door rang, signaling a new customer. Emily didn't look up at first, too lost in her own thoughts. But then she heard it. "I'll have the usual, thanks." Her heart skipped a beat. She froze. That voice. She knew that voice. Slowly, she looked up, and there he was. The man she had helped that day at the train station. But this time, he wasn't drenched in rain or looking helpless. He was impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, his dark hair styled neatly, and his eyes gleamed with confidence. He smiled when he saw her. "Emily, right?" he asked, as if he'd known her forever. She blinked, still in shock. "Yes," she stammered. "You're the guy from the train station, right?" He chuckled softly. "Yes, I am. I wanted to come by and thank you properly. That was a very kind thing you did." He slid into the booth across from her, his presence commanding yet gentle. Emily didn't know what to say. She just nodded, still stunned by his sudden appearance. He smiled again. "I didn't forget about our little encounter. In fact, I've been thinking about it ever since." Emily felt her cheeks flush. "You really don't have to thank me. It was just $10. He raised an eyebrow. $10 that changed everything for me." She furrowed her brow, confused. "What do you mean?" He took a deep breath, as if gathering his thoughts. "You see, I wasn't exactly being honest with you that day," he began, looking her directly in the eyes. "I'm not just some guy struggling to get home. I'm David Carter, CEO of Carter Enterprises. And I've been going through a bit of a personal experiment, let's call it." Emily's mind raced as his words sank in. David Carter. The name sounded familiar, but she couldn't place it. "CEO?" She stared at him in disbelief. "Wait, you're a millionaire?" He nodded, a sheepish grin on his face. "Yes, I am. But I didn't want to make it obvious. I wanted to see if people would help me if they didn't know who I was. You were the only one who gave without asking anything in return. It caught my attention." Emily's head spun. She had helped him because she felt for him, not because of his money. But now, the entire situation felt like a dream. David leaned forward, his tone softening. "You probably think I'm crazy, but what you did meant more to me than you can imagine. Most people, they see money, they see status, and they expect something in return. You didn't. And that's why I want to make it up to you." Emily still couldn't process what was happening. She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. She was speechless. David continued, "I want to offer you a job at Carter Enterprises. I need someone with a good heart, someone who understands the value of kindness, and someone who isn't just in it for the money. I believe you could be that person." Emily blinked, trying to absorb his words. "You want to hire me?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "Yes," David said with a smile. "I believe you're capable of much more than you realize." He paused, letting the offer sink in. "You've already proven you're not afraid to help others. Now I want to help you. I can't promise you'll get rich overnight, but I can promise you a chance at something better. Something that's yours, and only yours." Emily felt her heart race. She had always dreamed of more, of a life where she wasn't constantly struggling to survive. But was she ready to accept help from someone who had been watching her from afar? Was this real, or was it just another part of the experiment? Before she could speak, David stood up. Take some time to think about it. I'll leave my card with you, and you can call me when you're ready. He placed his business card on the table and gave her a reassuring smile. I'll be here for you, Emily. With that, he turned and left, leaving Emily sitting alone, staring at the card in her hand. Her world had just been turned upside down. Would she take the chance? Or would she continue to struggle on her own? Emily sat in the diner, staring at David's business card in her hand. Her mind was racing, trying to process everything that had just happened. Was this real? A millionaire offering her a job? It seemed like something out of a movie, yet here she was, holding the card of one of the most powerful men she had ever met. She had always dreamed of a better life, a chance to get out of the cycle of working long shifts just to pay rent and buy food, but this? This was beyond anything she could have imagined. She couldn't stop replaying the conversation in her head. David Carter, CEO of Carter Enterprises, had asked her to join his company. He had seen something in her, something she hadn't even realized was there. But the doubt started to creep in. Was this really a chance for her, or was it just another test, another game played by a rich man with too much time on his hands? She had given him her last $10 without thinking, and now he was offering her a life she could only dream of. She wasn't sure if she was ready for it. The idea of working for a company like Carter Enterprises was both thrilling and terrifying. She had no formal education, no prestigious connections, just a waitress's uniform and a heart full of hope. Could she really do this? Could she walk into his world and fit in, or would she always feel like an outsider, out of place among people who had everything? That night, as she lay in bed, Emily couldn't shake the thought swirling in her head. She tossed and turned, the weight of the decision pressing down on her chest. The phone on her bedside table buzzed, another reminder of her upcoming interview, one she had almost forgotten about. The desperation to escape her current life had never been stronger. But she couldn't ignore David's offer. She had always believed in hard work and earning her way, but this felt different. It felt like an opportunity too good to pass up. The next morning, Emily walked to the cafe where she worked, her steps slow but determined. She had made up her mind. She was going to call David. The moment she stepped inside the cafe, she was greeted by her boss, who looked stressed, as usual. Emily forced a smile and went to the back to change into her uniform. The entire shift felt like a blur. She kept thinking about the call she had to make, the call that would change everything. When her shift finally ended, Emily walked to the payphone outside the cafe and dialed the number on David's card. Her hands trembled as she waited for him to pick up. "Hello, this is David Carter," his calm voice answered on the other end. "Hi, David. It's Emily, from the diner," she said, her voice shaky. "Emily," he said, as if he'd been waiting for her call. "I'm glad you reached out. So, what do you think? Are you ready to take the next step?" Emily paused, taking a deep breath. I'm ready." The words felt heavy but also freeing. She wasn't sure where this would lead, but she knew one thing: she couldn't stay stuck in the life she was living any longer. David's voice softened. "I'm glad to hear that. I'll have my assistant set up a meeting for you. We'll discuss the details and figure out how we can get you started." She nodded, though he couldn't see it. "Thank you," she whispered, her heart racing with anticipation. "I'll see you soon." The moment she hung up, she felt a mix of excitement and fear. What had she just agreed to? Was she really ready to leave behind everything she knew and step into a world that seemed so far out of her reach? As Emily made her way home, she couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope. This could be the start of something new, something she had only dared to dream about. It wasn't going to be easy, but for the first time in a long while, she believed it was possible. When she reached her apartment, she sat down and stared at the wall, the reality of her decision starting to sink in. She was about to walk into a world of luxury and power, a world that had always seemed out of her grasp. But maybe, just maybe, it was the world where she truly belonged. She had a long road ahead, and the uncertainty was still there, but for the first time in her life, Emily felt like she was in control of her own fate. The following week, Emily found herself sitting in the sleek, modern lobby of Carter Enterprises. The tall glass windows gave a stunning view of the city, and the sound of footsteps echoed across the marble floors. She had never been in a building like this before, everything about it screamed wealth and power. She felt a knot form in her stomach as she looked around, realizing how out of place she seemed in her simple dress and worn shoes. A receptionist smiled at her and offered her a seat, but Emily couldn't shake the feeling that she didn't belong here. She had been in the city for years, but this was a world she had never even imagined stepping into. Her phone buzzed, pulling her from her thoughts. It was a message from her best friend, Jenny. "Good luck, Em. You've got this." Jenny's words brought a small smile to her face. She had always been there for Emily, through every struggle and disappointment. The message gave her a little extra boost of courage, and for the first time that morning, she felt a flicker of hope. She wasn't sure what the future held, but she knew this was her chance to start something new. Emily had been working as a waitress for so long that she had become numb to the thought of ever leaving that life behind. But this meeting, this opportunity, it was different. This could be her way out. Her phone buzzed again, and this time it was David's assistant, confirming that he was ready to meet. Emily stood up, taking a deep breath as she followed the assistant to a large office. When they entered, David was already standing behind his desk, a warm smile on his face. "Emily," he greeted her. "I'm so glad you made it." She smiled nervously, still unsure of what to expect. "Thank you for this opportunity," she said quietly, feeling a bit overwhelmed. "I'm not sure what I'm doing here, but I'm willing to learn." David gestured for her to sit down. "I'm glad you're here. I believe you have the potential to make a real impact. The reason I asked you to join Carter Enterprises is because of your heart. You helped me when you didn't have to, and that's something I don't forget." Emily felt her cheeks flush, unsure of how to respond. She had always believed in doing the right thing, but this was more than she had ever expected. "I want to see what you're capable of," David continued. "But I won't pretend that this will be easy. It's a big company, and the work can be intense. But I believe you can handle it. Are you ready for this?" Emily paused for a moment, her mind racing. This was everything she had dreamed of, yet it was so much more than she could have ever imagined. She wasn't just stepping into a new job, she was stepping into a whole new life. Could she really do this? Could she really make a place for herself in this world? Taking a deep breath, she looked David in the eye and nodded. "I'm ready." The decision felt right, but also terrifying. As David smiled and stood to shake her hand, she realized that this was the moment her life had been leading up to. Everything she had worked for, every late shift, every sacrifice, it had all brought her here. The world that had seemed so far out of reach was now within her grasp. But it wasn't just about the money or the prestige. For the first time, Emily felt like she could be more than just a waitress. She could be someone who mattered, who made a difference. The rest of the meeting passed in a blur, with David outlining her new role and what would be expected of her. But Emily couldn't focus on the details. All she could think about was the feeling of shaking his hand, the promise of a future that was no longer defined by her past. As she left the building, a sense of excitement began to bubble up inside her. She wasn't sure what would happen next, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she had control of her own destiny. She was ready to take the next step, to leave behind the life she knew and build something new. Emily walked down the steps of Carter Enterprises, the city skyline stretching out before her, and for the first time, it didn't seem so far out of reach. The following weeks felt like a whirlwind for Emily. She threw herself into her new role at Carter Enterprises, a job that was both challenging and thrilling. Every day brought something new, whether it was a project she was assigned to or a meeting with people who seemed to be light years ahead of her. The first few days were overwhelming. Emily struggled to fit in, constantly comparing herself to the other employees who were confident, polished, and experienced. She was still adjusting to the rhythm of this high-powered world, where every move she made felt scrutinized, but there was a fire inside her, a determination that kept her going. David had been right about one thing: this job wasn't easy. But it was the first time in her life she truly felt like she was working toward something meaningful. Her colleagues respected her work ethic, and slowly, she began to build relationships, one small step at a time. There were moments when she still felt out of place, like when she walked into a meeting room and realized she was the only one without a degree from an Ivy League school, but she pushed those thoughts aside and focused on the tasks at hand. Her confidence grew with every project she completed, with every small victory. She was proving to herself that she belonged here, that she could keep up with the best of them. One afternoon, David called her into his office, something that never failed to make her heart race. She knocked lightly on the door and stepped inside, trying to hide her nervousness. "Emily," David greeted her with a warm smile, looking up from his desk. "I've been hearing great things about your progress. I wanted to talk to you about something important." Emily's heart skipped a beat. She had no idea what he was going to say, but the way he was looking at her made it seem like it was a big deal. "What's going on?" she asked, trying to sound casual. David leaned back in his chair and clasped his hands together. "We have a new project coming up, and I think you're the perfect person for the job," he said. "It's a big step for the company, and it could be a big step for you, too." Emily blinked in surprise. "Me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. She couldn't believe it. She had only been here for a short time. "Yes," David said, his tone confident. "You've shown a lot of potential. You've got the drive and the skills, and I believe you can take this project to the next level. This could be a huge opportunity for you." Emily's mind raced. A big project? For her? It felt like a dream. She had worked so hard to prove herself, but this was something else entirely. "What kind of project?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. "It's a new initiative we're launching," David explained. "We're expanding into a new market, and we need someone to lead the charge. I know it's a big responsibility, but I trust you to handle it." Emily's hand started to sweat. This was exactly the kind of opportunity she had been waiting for, the kind of chance that could change everything. But with it came a new level of pressure. The stakes were higher now. "I don't know if I'm ready for something like this," she admitted, feeling the weight of the moment. David smiled gently. "You are more than ready, Emily. I wouldn't offer this to you if I didn't believe in you." She took a deep breath, the reality of the situation starting to sink in. This was her chance, the moment she had worked so hard for. But the fear was still there, a quiet voice in the back of her mind asking if she was truly capable. "I'll do it," Emily said, her voice firm with determination. "I'm ready." David's smile widened. "I knew you would be." As she left his office, her heart raced with excitement and nerves. She had taken the leap, and now there was no turning back. This project would be the ultimate test of everything she had learned, everything she had worked for. But for the first time, Emily felt ready. Ready to take on the challenge, ready to show everyone, including herself, that she was more than just a waitress from the diner. She was capable, she was strong, and she was going to succeed. As the weeks went by, Emily threw herself into the new project at Carter Enterprises. The responsibility was immense, and the pressure she felt was unlike anything she had ever experienced. It wasn't just about meeting deadlines or completing tasks, it was about leading a team, making decisions that could affect the future of the company. Every day felt like a test of her abilities. She woke up earlier, stayed up later, and pushed herself harder than ever before. But with each passing day, Emily started to realize something: she was more capable than she had ever given herself credit for. The project was challenging, but it was also invigorating. She found herself growing, learning, and becoming more confident in her role. The team she was working with began to trust her, and they followed her lead with a sense of respect that filled her with pride. One afternoon, as she was reviewing the latest market research, David stopped by her office. He had been busy with meetings, but he made it a point to check in on her progress. "How's everything going?" he asked, leaning against the door frame. Emily looked up, surprised but grateful for the attention. "It's going well," she replied, smiling. "The team's really starting to gel, and we're making good headway on the launch plan." David nodded, his eyes scanning the papers on her desk. "I've been hearing great things about your leadership. You've really stepped up." Emily felt a warmth spread through her chest at his words. It had been a long journey from the nervous waitress who had walked into the building for the first time, unsure of her place, to the confident leader who was now making an impact. "Thanks, David," she said, her voice filled with sincerity. "I appreciate the opportunity you gave me." David smiled, his expression softening. "You earned it, Emily. You've proven that you have what it takes." Just as he was about to leave, he turned back to her. "By the way, I wanted to tell you that we're going to be presenting the final launch plan at the board meeting next week. You'll be leading the presentation." Emily's stomach fluttered at the thought. Leading a presentation in front of the board? The same board members who had seen so many leaders come and go. It was a huge opportunity, but it also came with immense pressure. I'm honored," she said, her voice a little shaky. "I'll make sure it's perfect." David gave her a reassuring smile. "I know you will. Don't worry. Just stay true to what we've been working on, and it'll go great." As he left her office, Emily sat back in her chair, her thoughts racing. This was it. The moment she had been waiting for. The board meeting would be her chance to prove to herself and everyone else that she belonged at Carter Enterprises, that she wasn't just some waitress who had been given a lucky break. She had earned her place here, and now she was going to show the world what she was made of. That night, Emily stayed late, reviewing her presentation over and over again. She practiced in front of the mirror, made sure every detail was perfect, and ran through every possible question the board might ask. She knew she couldn't afford to make any mistakes. As the days passed, the weight of the upcoming presentation grew heavier, but Emily felt herself becoming more prepared, more confident. She was no longer the nervous woman who had walked into Carter Enterprises, she was someone who had the power to shape the future of the company. The night before the presentation, she couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the responsibility that rested on her shoulders. It wasn't just about the project anymore, it was about proving to herself that she could do this. She was ready, but was she ready enough? She kept telling herself that she had worked too hard to back down now. The next morning, she put on her best suit, the one she had bought with her first paycheck from Carter Enterprises, and walked into the conference room with her head held high. The board members were already seated, waiting for her. Her heart raced, but she stood tall, walked to the front, and began the presentation. The words came easier than she expected, and the more she spoke, the more confident she became. By the time she finished, the room was silent for a moment. Then, one of the board members spoke up. "Impressive," he said, nodding approvingly. "Very well done, Emily." Emily's heart swelled with pride. She had done it. She had proven herself, not just to the board, but to herself. As she left the conference room, David was waiting for her. He smiled and extended his hand. "I knew you could do it." Emily shook his hand, her smile wide. "Thank you for believing in me." She had come a long way from that. Waitress at the diner, and now, she was ready for whatever came next. After the successful board presentation, Emily felt like a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. The approval from the board members, the nods of respect, the appreciative glances from her colleagues, all of it was overwhelming, yet incredibly rewarding. She had proven herself, not just to the company, but to herself. She had come so far from the nervous waitress who had first walked into Carter Enterprises, uncertain of her place. Now, she was a valued member of the team, leading major projects and earning the trust of those around her. Despite the success, however, Emily couldn't shake the lingering feeling that there was more to her journey, more challenges to face. A few days later, she received an unexpected call from David. "Emily, I need to see you in my office. His voice was calm, but there was an undertone of urgency. Her heart skipped a beat. Another meeting? What could this be about? She walked down the hall to David's office, her mind racing. She had no idea what to expect. As she entered, David stood up from behind his desk, a serious look on his face. "I've been keeping an eye on your progress, Emily," he began, motioning for her to sit. "You've done incredible work, but there's something we need to discuss." Emily sat down, trying to read his expression. Was this about her performance? Had she done something wrong? "What's going on?" she asked, her voice steady, though her mind was in overdrive. David took a deep breath and looked her in the eyes. "I've been thinking about your future here, and I want to give you a chance to take on more responsibility." Emily felt a rush of excitement mixed with apprehension. More responsibility? Was there even more she could take on? "We're expanding rapidly, and I need someone I can trust to take the lead on a new initiative," David continued. "This project will be a game changer for the company. It's big, and it's risky. But I believe you have the skills and the drive to make it a success." Emily's mind raced. She had already been working on major projects, but this sounded different. A game changer. "What kind of project?" she asked, trying to sound composed, though the excitement was bubbling under the surface. David's gaze softened, and he smiled. "It's a new market we're moving into. We're aiming to be a major player in a new industry. It's uncharted territory for us, and we need someone with fresh ideas, someone who isn't afraid to take risks." Emily felt her pulse quicken. This was it, the opportunity of a lifetime. She had worked so hard for a chance like this, and now it was right in front of her. But there was one question that lingered. "Why me?" she asked, her voice quiet but sincere. "Why not someone with more experience?" David's smile remained, but there was a certain depth to his expression. "Because, Emily, you have something that experience can't teach, heart. You've shown me that you're willing to take risks, to step outside your comfort zone, and to work harder than anyone else in the room. That's why I believe in you." The words hit her harder than she expected. She had always doubted herself, thinking that maybe her lack of formal education or connections would hold her back. But David saw something in her that she had never fully recognized in herself. "I'm honored," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I won't let you down." David stood and extended his hand. "I know you won't. This is your chance, Emily. Make the most of it." As Emily left David's office, her heart was pounding. The magnitude of the opportunity was starting to sink in, and with it, a new sense of responsibility. She had been given the chance to lead a project that could change the future of the company. The pressure was immense, but for the first time, she didn't feel overwhelmed by it. Instead, she felt ready. Ready to prove that she wasn't just a waitress who had gotten lucky, she was a force to be reckoned with. That night, as she sat at her kitchen table, going over the details of the project in her head, she realized just how far she had come. From the woman who had given away her last $10 at a train station to the woman who was now on the verge of leading a major corporate initiative, Emily had come full circle. She knew the road ahead would be difficult, filled with challenges and moments of doubt, but she also knew that she was stronger than she had ever been before. This was just the beginning. And Emily was ready to face whatever came next. As the days turned into weeks, Emily poured her heart and soul into the new project. The stakes were high, and the pressure was relentless, but she thrived under it. She spent countless hours at her desk, mapping out the strategy, analyzing the market, and leading meetings with her team. The project was moving faster than she had anticipated, and it was beginning to take shape in a way that made her believe in her own abilities more than ever. Her confidence grew with every milestone, and as the project progressed, Emily realized that she was no longer the woman who had been unsure of herself when she first walked into Carter Enterprises. She was a leader now, a force to be reckoned with. But even with her newfound confidence, there were moments of doubt. Late one night, as she sat in her office reviewing the latest proposal, a thought crossed her mind. What if she wasn't enough? What if, despite all her hard work, the project failed. She pushed the thought aside, trying to focus on the task at hand, but it lingered. The fear of failure was something she had learned to live with, but it was still there, lurking in the background, reminding her that success was never guaranteed. Just as she was about to close her laptop and head home, her phone buzzed. It was a message from David. "Can you meet me in my office tomorrow morning? I need to discuss the next steps with you." Emily's heart skipped a beat. She had no idea what David wanted to discuss, but the urgency in his message made her feel like the pressure was about to increase even more. The next morning, she walked into David's office, her mind racing. He was standing by the window, looking out at the city. When he turned to face her, there was a sense of seriousness in his eyes that immediately made Emily feel on edge. "Emily," David began, "I wanted to talk to you about the project. I've been following your progress closely, and I'm impressed by how you've handled everything. But there's something I need to tell you." Emily's stomach tightened. "What is it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "We've hit a few unexpected roadblocks," David explained. "The market response hasn't been as positive as we anticipated, and there are concerns about the financial stability of the initiative. I want to be upfront with you, this could be a make-or-break moment for the project." Emily felt a wave of anxiety wash over her. She had worked so hard, and now, it felt like everything was on the verge of falling apart. "What are we going to do?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. David gave her a reassuring look. "I believe in you, Emily. I wouldn't have put you in charge if I didn't think you could turn this around. We need a new strategy, something bold, something that will get people's attention. But I'm confident that with your vision and leadership, we can make it work." Emily nodded, her mind racing as she processed the weight of the situation. This was the moment she had been preparing for, the moment when everything would be decided. She knew the risks, but she also knew that giving up wasn't an option. "I won't let you down," she said firmly. "I'll come up with a new plan, one that will turn this around." David smiled. "That's the Emily I know. I'm counting on you." As she left his office, Emily felt a mixture of fear and determination. This was the biggest challenge she had faced yet, and the stakes had never been higher. But for the first time in her life, she felt ready. She wasn't going to let this opportunity slip through her fingers. She had come too far to back down now. The next few days were a blur of late nights, brainstorming sessions, and intense focus. Emily worked with her team to develop a new strategy, one that was riskier but had the potential for greater rewards. It was a gamble, but she believed it was the only way to turn things around. She stayed up all night finalizing the presentation, her mind sharp despite the exhaustion. When the day of the meeting arrived, Emily felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She stood before the board members, her hand steady as she presented the new strategy. She explained the risks, but also the potential for success. The room was silent as she finished, and for a moment, she wondered if she had said enough. Then, one of the board members spoke. "This is bold," he said, nodding. "But I think it could work." Emily exhaled in relief. One by one, the other board members voiced their approval, and by the end of the meeting, the new strategy was approved. Emily had done it. She had turned the project around. As she left the conference room, David was waiting for her. He smiled, his expression full of pride. "You did it, Emily. You turned it around. I knew you had it in you." Emily smiled back, her heart swelling with pride. This was the moment she had worked for, the moment that proved she was more than just a waitress who had gotten lucky. She had earned her place at Carter Enterprises, and now, she was ready for whatever came next. Months passed, and the project that once seemed like an impossible challenge now stood as a testament to Emily's determination and growth. The new strategy she had proposed had not only worked, but it had also exceeded expectations. Carter Enterprises had entered the new market successfully, and the company was now looking at unprecedented growth. Emily's hard work had paid off, and with it, her place in the company was solidified. She no longer felt like the outsider she once was. She had become an integral part of the team, earning the respect of her colleagues and proving to herself that she was capable of achieving greatness. But as she sat in her office one afternoon, looking out over the city, Emily couldn't help but think about how far she had come. She thought about the day she had given her last $10 to a stranger at the train station, never imagining how that simple act of kindness would change her life. She thought about her struggles, her doubts, and how she had pushed through them all to get to where she was now. Everything had led to this moment, the moment when she realized that she wasn't just lucky. She had earned her success. As she was lost in thought, her phone buzzed. It was a message from David. "Can you meet me in my office?" it read. Emily's heart skipped a beat. What could this be about? She had just completed the project and everything was going well, but the way the message was worded made her feel like something important was about to happen. She stood up, straightening her blouse, and walked to David's office with a sense of anticipation. When she entered, David was already sitting behind his desk, a thoughtful look on his face. "Emily," he began, his voice warm yet serious. "I wanted to take a moment to thank you for everything you've done. The success of this project is all because of you. Your leadership, your vision, it's been incredible to watch." Emily felt a rush of pride at his words. It had been a long journey, but it was moments like this that made it all worth it. "Thank you," she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "I couldn't have done it without the team. We all worked together to make this happen." David nodded. "That's true, but you were the driving force. And that's why I'm here to talk to you about your future at Carter Enterprises." Emily's heart began to race. What was he going to say? Was this about a promotion? A new opportunity? David leaned forward, his expression serious yet encouraging. "We've been so impressed with everything you've done that I want to offer you something special," he continued. "We'd like to make you the head of a new division we're launching. It's a huge step up, and I believe you're the perfect person for the job." Emily's mind went blank for a moment. Head of a division? She had come so far from being a waitress at the diner, and now, she was being offered a leadership position in one of the most successful companies in the industry. She felt a mix of excitement and disbelief. I don't know what to say," she stammered, her heart racing. "This is such an incredible opportunity." David smiled, his tone reassuring. "You've earned it, Emily. You've shown that you have the vision, the drive, and the heart to lead. This is your next step." Emily took a deep breath, her mind still reeling. This was everything she had worked for, everything she had dreamed of. And it was finally within her grasp. "I'll do it," she said, her voice firm with determination. "I'm ready." David's smile widened, and he stood up to shake her hand. "I knew you would be. Welcome to the next chapter of your journey, Emily." As she walked out of David's office, Emily felt a sense of pride and excitement flood through her. This wasn't just a new position, it was a new beginning, one that would allow her to make a real impact in the company and in her own life. She had started with nothing but a small act of kindness, and now, she was leading her own division. It was more than she had ever dreamed of. As she walked through the halls of Carter Enterprises, Emily couldn't help but smile. She had come so far, and this was just the beginning. She knew there would be more challenges ahead, but now, she was ready for them. She wasn't the same woman who had walked into the company that first day. She had grown, she had changed, and she was ready to take on the world.